Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. In our previous episode, we discussed that, under the encouragement of Rimuru, Shuna, Hakuru, and others, Benimaru finally accepted the affections of Momiji and Albiz. Witnessed by the entire Monster Federation, he was united in matrimony with both women simultaneously. On another note, Gabta, Hakuru, Ranga, and the three primordial demon beauties also received their respective rewards during the victory celebration. In this episode, we will delve into the establishment of Rimuru's 12 Guardian Lords and Phobeo's story. Let's get started. As the first half of the victory ceremony concluded and the participants exited, the Monster Federation's celebration and evolution ceremony pressed forward. The next to be called onto the stage were the Labyrinth Guardians, who had earned considerable acclaim for their role in the recent war. According to the agreement, Beretta, Ramrus' servant, formally stepped down from his position among the 10 Labyrinth Guardians, passing the role to the former Empire's great mage, Gadra. Apart from the 4 Dragon Lords guarding the 96th to 99th floors of the Labyrinth, and Beretta, there were 5 other individuals who were set to receive rewards. The first to be honored was Kumara, who, during this war, had vanquished her nemesis, Colonel Kansas, and earned the right to awaken. Her strength had far exceeded Rimuru's initial expectations, especially considering she was just a little fox when rescued from Clayman. Without Rimuru's naming, she might never have reached her current level of prowess. However, there were other factors at play as well. We discussed Kumara's ability, the 8th Legion in the episode 37 and 39. It's the power to transform her 8 tails into 8 different beasts. A few days after Rimuru named Kumara, on a whim, he also named these 8 tail beasts. This act strengthened the bond between the 8th Legion and Kumara. When the tail beasts reverted back into tails and returned to Kumara, it was as though she had received 9 names from Rimuru. With the continued growth of these tail beasts, the fused Kumara effectively underwent 9-fold training simultaneously, showcasing her formidable combined strength. To reward Kumara, Rimuru bestowed upon her the title befitting her status, Chimera Lord, and granted her 100,000 souls. Concurrently, Kumara began her awakening. Her 8 tails, representing the 8th Legion, started to glow with a silvery radiance. Her previously chestnut-colored hair transformed into golden wheat-like strands, and her figure became fuller and more enchanting. In terms of combat ability, not only did Kumara enhance, but her subordinates, the 8th Legion, also received blessings. The Legion's enhanced strength, in turn, further empowered Kumara. However, undergoing such drastic changes, Kumara entered a low-activity mode, struggling to maintain consciousness. Seeing Kumara in this state, Rimuru gently ordered her to rest. Thus, she exited the victory celebration and fell into a deep slumber. Following Kumara's awakening, attention then turned to Insect Queen Apito and Insect Kaiser Zegion. These two were saved by Rimuru, who acted on a whim, motivated by the desire to protect rare insect species, using his own cells for their rescue. This story dates back to before Rimuru's first encounter with Melim. To briefly recap, Rimuru found Zegion and Apito in the forest. At that time, Zegion, resembling a rhinoceros beetle and only about 50 centimeters long, was fighting valiantly against a B-ranked magical beast, the Blade Tiger, to protect Apito. Apito, akin to a bee, was in a near-death state. Zegion, despite his weakened condition, was ready to battle Rimuru to protect Apito, but she implored Rimuru to help them instead. Moved by Zegion's spirit of self-sacrifice, Rimuru decided to assist them. Consequently, Rimuru saved these 2 magical insects, using cells from his own body to heal their near-fatal injuries and employing Magisteel to repair their exoskeletons. He then named them Zegion and Apito. From that point on, Apito took on the role of honey production, while Zegion dedicated himself to her protection. Following this, the Monster Federation came to possess honey so exquisite that even Melim became obsessed with it. As time passed, these 2 magical creatures grew increasingly powerful. Zegion, in particular, under the guidance of Veldora and the Lord of Wisdom, achieved the status of the most formidable warrior within the labyrinth world. Even those imperial powerhouses who had put other labyrinth guardians through grueling battles were single-handedly defeated by Zegion. Observing Zegion before him, Rimuru reminisced about the small beetle that once fought desperately to protect its companion, feeling a sense of nostalgia and admiration for Zegion's exceptional strength. Honestly, even Rimuru hadn't anticipated Zegion's growth to such an extent. Zegion, visibly moved, attributed his success to Rimuru-sama's guidance. Rimuru pondered inwardly, recalling that it was actually Veldora who had been instructing Zegion, but then considered that perhaps the Lord of Wisdom had orchestrated something behind the scenes, leading to Zegion's misunderstanding. Deciding not to correct this minor misapprehension on such a significant public occasion, Rimuru chose instead to acknowledge Zegion's humility. He commended Zegion for the results achieved through relentless effort, and encouraged him to continue honing his formidable skills in service to Rimuru. Following this, Rimuru bestowed upon Zegion the title of Mist Lord. Zegion, deeply moved by Rimuru's award, trembled with emotion and vowed to redouble his efforts. He then received 100,000 souls and began his awakening. Zegion's exoskeleton, already comparable to legendary armor, evolved into the ultimate metal hurricane, combined with various laws embedded within him, making his skeletal hardness rival mythological equipment. To put this into perspective, Kurobe, Monster Federation's most skilled blacksmith, could only forge legendary weapons, meaning if Zegion used his own arm as a blade, it could completely overpower weapons wielded by Benimaru, Hakuru, and others. But Zegion's evolution didn't stop there. His magical capacity reached the level of a true demon lord, and most crucially, he acquired a genuine ultimate skill, Lord of Fantasy, possessing a world system ability called Fantasy World, which even Rimuru didn't have. This ability allowed him to create an environment entirely favorable to himself, dictating the fate of enemies within that environment. The world system refers to skills that enable the owner to create a unique world. Meanwhile, Apito, the other insected, though not qualified for awakening, received blessings from Zegion, her only kin. Rimuru, as a reward, also hosted the souls of her subordinates, demonic bugs who died in the war without resurrection bracelets, within her. This caused Apito's body to undergo instant disintegration and rebirth, transforming into a form far more formidable and suited for battle. Without gaining an ultimate skill, Apito was granted a unique skill, Motherly Queen, rivaling the capabilities of the Great Sin series skills. This skill allowed the creation of magents with insectoid characteristics, adding a powerful magian group to the Monster Federation's ranks, with Apito as their undisputed queen. As an aside, Apito's ability could create 9 powerful insectoid magents, who Rimuru later named 1 to 9. Thus empowered, Zegion and Apito, as the king and queen of the labyrinth's insectoid faction, cemented their absolute position within the labyrinth. Then came the turn to reward the undead King Adelman and his subordinates Albert and the undead dragon. Although these three had not emerged victorious in their battle, their defeat was not due to a lack of skill. The defeat was caused when Albert's sword, inferior in quality to the enemy's, was exploited as a vulnerability by Krishna, resulting in the weapon's breakage. Rimuru, therefore, did not intend to blame them for such an incident. Rimuru acknowledged that, despite the unfortunate outcome, the trio's performance was commendable, particularly Albert's swordsmanship, which he described as spectacular. Adelman, too, had mastered all the magic taught by Rimuru. Rimuru praised their spirit of continuous improvement as worthy of emulation by everyone. Hearing Rimuru's praise, Adelman became flustered, humbly stating that his own achievements were nothing compared to Rimuru's. Rimuru was aware that the true intellect was not his own but that of the Lord of Wisdom, although he didn't plan to correct their misunderstanding. While encouraging Adelman, Rimuru promised to grant him greater power, looking forward to his further growth. Adelman, deeply moved, tearfully expressed his gratitude for receiving such a reward despite defeat, vowing to sacrifice himself for Rimuru if necessary. Seeing Adelman's tearful gratitude, Rimuru authoritatively bestowed upon him the title of Gehenna Lord and initiated his awakening. Albert, as Adelman's retainer, received a set of mythological armor from the spoils of war and was blessed to become a death paladin, free from the constraints of lifespan. Of course, Rimuru also remembered Adelman's subordinate, the undead dragon. With the aid of the Lord of Wisdom's analysis, Rimuru performed a naming using 5,000 souls, personally bestowing upon her the name Hell Dragon King, Venti. As the naming ceremony concluded, a dramatic transformation occurred. The undead dragon, previously over 20 meters in length, began to shrink gradually, eventually transforming into a beautiful young girl clad in dark attire. During the moment of Rimuru's astonishment, Venti spoke up, joyfully expressing her gratitude to her divine benefactor, Rimuru-sama. Just like Adelman, Venti revered Rimuru as a deity, and her petite figure bore no trace of the former undead dragon's majesty. Regaining composure, Rimuru maintained an unshaken demeanor and nodded in acknowledgement. Thus, the award ceremony for the labyrinth group concluded, leaving only two problematic individuals, Shion, the first secretary, and Diablo, the second secretary. Both were eligible for awakening, and their ceremonies proceeded similarly to the previous ones. Shion was bestowed the title of warlord and received 100,000 souls. Strangely, like Benimaru, Shion exhibited no changes, though her subordinates fell into a deep slumber. Confused by these developments, as Shion, unlike Benimaru, had no task related to childbirth, Rimuru could only bestow upon her a special reward similar to Gobta's, the recipe for a special cuisine. Shion, overjoyed by the reward, asked if this meant that Rimuru acknowledged her culinary skills as surpassing Shuna's. Rimuru, without hesitation, immediately denied this, causing Shuna to react with a mix of amusement and speechlessness. Meanwhile, Shion, muttering about expanding the kitchen, nodded and rejoined the ranks. Finally, it was Diablo's turn. Eager and filled with anticipation, Diablo looked at Rimuru expectantly. Honestly, after this evolution, Diablo was undoubtedly set to become the strongest entity within the Monster Federation. He wasn't just the most powerful among Rimuru's subordinates. Rimuru felt Diablo might even surpass himself, especially considering that even Rimuru, at the time of his awakening, couldn't compare to the still unawakened Diablo. Such an extraordinary Diablo, Rimuru pondered, what level would he evolve to? Rimuru was genuinely intrigued. He told Diablo that the title of Fiend Lord suited him well and entrusted him with the continued leadership of the demons, Rimuru's secret weapon. It's important to note that due to translation variances, Diablo's title is sometimes rendered as Demon Lord, but to avoid confusion with the octagram Demon Lords, Fiend Lord is used here to distinguish. In an instant, a true Devil King was born. Diablo completely harnessed all the soul energy so swiftly that even Rimuru barely had time to react before the evolution was complete. Judging from the faint emanations of Magicule, Diablo's Magicule level seemed to have reached a point comparable to Rimuru's. Coupled with his millennia of combat experience, it seemed plausible that even Rimuru might not be able to defeat him. Rimuru entertained a secret thought: if it really came to that, he would have to bring out his true strength for an exhilarating battle with Diablo. Unfortunately, Diablo remained as reverent as ever towards Rimuru. However, although Diablo had completed his evolution, he seemed to have set his sights on acquiring a new ability. Curious, Rimuru inquired about it, and Diablo revealed that the previous battles had made him realize the value of ultimate skills. Previously, Diablo had dismissed these powers out of a rebellious disdain for Guy Crimson's boasting. But now, Diablo had changed his mind, believing that if a tool is useful to help Rimuru-sama, it should be fully utilized. Rimuru looked at him as if he were a fool. Ultimate skills represented the pinnacle of power in their world. To forsake the chance to obtain such power merely because of someone else's bragging was something only Diablo could do. With a cheerful expression, Diablo expressed his eagerness to learn new skills in order to boast to Guy during their next encounter. Seeing Diablo in such high spirits, Rimuru felt reassured. Diablo was still the same old Diablo he knew. Thus, new demon lords were born within the Monster Federation, although they weren't allowed to officially call themselves demon lords. After the evolution, the Monster Federation effectively had 9 individuals who could rival true demon lords and the 3 demon peers, the three primordial demon beauties. In the future, they could handle most situations without much difficulty, unless something particularly severe occurred. The 12 who were bestowed with the title of Lords: Flame Lord Benimaru, Star Lord Ranga, Barrier Lord Gelb, Draco Lord Gabaru, Killer Lord Testarossa, Pain Lord Ultima, Menace Lord Carrera, Chimera Lord Kumara, Mist Lord Zegion, Gehenna Lord Alderman, War Lord Shion, and Fiend Lord Diablo represented the highest echelons within the Monster Federation's cadre, known to the world as the 12 Guardian Lords. Rimuru, as their leader, earned the title of Chaos Creator. With the conclusion of the victory celebration, the actual banquet was just getting started. The still sober attendees began to cheer for their grand victory. Exquisite food, beautiful music, everyone was immersed in this rare moment of leisure and relaxation. Among them, however, were a few intriguing figures, the beastmen Phobeo and the goblin Gabwa. In the last episode's story, Gabwa's crush Benimaru announced his marriage to Momiji and Albiz, whom Phobeo had secretly admired. Facing such a significant blow, both of them drowned their sorrows in alcohol. But in times of disappointment, love often finds a way to bloom. Under the influence of alcohol and comforting words, the two rejected souls strangely found solace in each other. Love indeed works in mysterious ways. When Rimuru overheard this story, he felt a surge of irritation. Meanwhile, the banquet continued to reach new heights of revelry. Alright, that's all for this video. In the next episode, we'll discuss the arrival of the most powerful demon lord, Guy Crimson, and Veldora's elder sister, the strongest true dragon, Velzard. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support fuels my continued efforts. See you in the next one.